Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Coral Standard deck profile for Post Crystal Melody. This is the final of the 3 new decks we received in the latest Bermuda Triangle booster pack, being the Coral Ride Chain. It's very interesting. I'm very happy that they decided to do this in the long run, giving us all this support in standard format for a lot of fans' favorite Bermuda Triangle decks. Hopefully they'll do that in the future sets as well. Maybe see some support for Reindeer and a bunch of other ones like duos perhaps. I think it'd be a lot of fun to see what they can do in standard format for those cards, just like they've done with Coral, Riviere, and Pacifica, with Coral focusing on a bunch of Soul Blast effects to gain additional effects depending on how many cards you have Soul Blasted for that particular turn, and also focusing on just the different Coral Ride Chain cards we have in the deck to all work very, very well together. It's a very interesting deck. I took kind of a turn that helps with the Soul Blasting, and just later on what you can do late game with some of the other tech choices in the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So to start off, I want to run 4 of the Aurora Star Coral, being the main grade 3 of the deck. I'm actually not building Coral. This is all going to be for a friend of mine, so I just need to pick up one more Coral. I have, just like with the Riviere deck, the one Silver Singer Q-Tire in here to fill in the spot for the last Coral. But with Aurora Star Coral, if you Soul Blast a total of 4 more this turn, the original critical of all your units with Coral and their card name become 2. So just that increased critical definitely does help for pressure, meaning you can focus on Imaginary Gift Force 1, and then just giving that critical pressure with Coral's skill alone. And on Vanguard, once per turn, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 2, return a normal unit each from your rear guard and drop zone to your hand. If you returned a card with Coral and its card name, this unit gets plus 15,000 until end of turn. So it helps to recycle a bunch of Coral cards, including the grade 3 Coral that you can have in your drop zone back in your hand to reuse and re-ride, since it is a normal unit. And then just other cards you may have missed out if they were in the damage zone, or if it's just you using them to guard. It all helps just for that recycle power you have with Coral, because you can go through the soul quite quickly with this deck, so you want to have other grade 3 options to replenish the ride that you do with this card. And it also does help with our backup grade 3 that we run in the deck, which is Glaring Moon Miera, which I also run 4 of. With this one, when placed, Counter Blast 1, search your deck for up to 1 Aurora Star Coral, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So it's a Vanguard effect, so you can ride this card having the Imaginary Gift Force, giving you the search. It also builds up the soul, so early game pressure if you want to just go for the force marker on the first ride, or just all the grade 3 options we have in the deck, you at least have setup for each Coral ride you go for. And on rear guard, during the battle your Aurora Star Coral attacked, your opponent can only call grade 0 cards to hand. So with the pressure alone, with the power up you can get with Aurora Star Coral, and then just the pressure that Miera can provide, meaning they can only guard with grade 0s from hand, helps for what they can use to guard against the Coral attack, and then just rely on that for your Aurora Star Coral, and not just on the Vanguard, because it's just the battle that Aurora Star Coral attacks. So if you do have one by chance on rear guard, it helps with that guard restriction as well, having the backup for Miera. So whether it be on Vanguard or rear, it helps with additional support all over for pressure, and just with setup for this card. So you definitely need 4 of it. I'd say it's a very great backup. I love what they did with all the different decks for Bermuda Triangle in this set, just with the backup card. Didn't have to be anything too major, just to help overall for people who wanted to build the particular deck in mind. And that's it for the grade 3s. Before we get on to the grade 2s, I am running 1 of the Crystal Popstar Eve. This card just helps late game. If you use up all your soul resources and whatnot, let's say you just have the 1 Aurora Star Coral left for the setup, you can go with the Crystal Popstar Eve for the double trigger effect, and then also the filling up of your rear guards quite easily just by calling it to an open rear guard circle from your deck onto the field. So Crystal Popstar Eve helps with that setup along with it. Great late game tactic. It's the only grade 4 I feel works well, because the other ones rely on different card names, going more for the Highlander deck, while this one can focus on a bunch of different decks. I considered using it in Pacifica and also Riviere, but I felt it works the best in Coral altogether. And that is it for the grade 4 as well. Now moving on to the grade 2, I run 4 Shiny Star Coral. On Vanguard or rear when placed, you can Soul Charge 1 if you have a Vanguard with Coral in its card name, Soul Charge 1. So it's just a when placed effect, being able to build up the Soul Charge for that effect twice, so you can not have less and less resources, because you really do want to benefit off all the different Soul Charge and Soul Blasting you do with the deck. And on rear guard, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 2, and this this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. If you have a Vanguard with Coral in its card name, it gets plus 5 as well until end of turn. So an additional plus 15 when this card is attacking, but most of all, I'd say the most important effect is just the setup for the soul in this card. When you ride it on Vanguard, you'll get the additional soul charge. Since you do have a Vanguard with Coral on rearguard, just having 2 of these in your hand can just easily help set up more and more soul inside of Shiny Star Coral, and then ride into Aurora Star Coral, having plenty of resources, like I already said, to go for. And also, for more backup with some more of the guard restriction, I run 4 Charming Make Piaolang with this one on rear. When placed, if you have a Vanguard with Coral in its card name, counterblast 1 until the end of turn when your opponent would call a card from hand to guard. He or she must call 2 or more at the same time. So with our backup being Glaring Moon Miera, with it meaning during your battle with Aurora Star Coral attack, your opponent can only call grade 0s from hand. So if your opponent puts down a Sentinel, they have to put down an additional card as well if you set up Piaolang with Miera on the field, meaning they have to waste extra resources just to block an attack on your opponent's turn. So Piaolang definitely does help with that in the sense, and also the fact that you really don't need too many counterblasts up in the deck, since Miera doesn't have a counterblast cost, and also Coral is just more for the soul charge setup, and then Coral Aurora Star is only 1 counterblast for the effect that's a once per turn. So Piaolang can definitely help with that restriction, and you don't really need to eat up too many counterblasts otherwise, and everything else in the deck is really just a 1 of counterblasts, no 2 other ones for the big investment. And to finish off the grade 2s, just like with the Riviere, I'm running from Colorful Pastorelle Caro. I'd say it's the best of all the different from Colorful Pastorelles we received, just for the generic grade 3 setup. When placed from hand, Soul Blast 2, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as a grade 3 Vanguard, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. This ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once per turn. More grade 3 search with this one if you just want to have another Coral in your hand for that search. Caro definitely does come in handy. It also provides for the Soul Blast effect, since with Aurora Star Coral, if you Soul Blast a total of 4 more this turn. So with the Soul Blast you can do for Shiny Star Coral, Aurora Star herself, or just Caro, you'll meet the requirements for the additional critical 2 for all your cards with Coral in its name, and for that setup. But just being the search definitely does come in handy as well. And that is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. For the Coral, once again, it was just like I was down 1 card for all of these decks. So just having a mid-vocal and Noir in for the deck. But I want to run 4 Fresh Star Coral with this one on Vanguard. When placed, if your soul has a card with Coral in its card name, which will be your starter, draw a card and put a card from your hand into your soul. More soul buildup, but it also doesn't just soul charge. It gives you the draw power to hopefully get to your other grade 2 cards, which isn't really as relied on in this deck for the ride chain like it was, let's say, Riviere. These cards just help for your soul setup. And on rearguard, when placed, soul charge 1. If you have a Vanguard with Coral in its card name, soul charge 1, and this unit gets plus 5. So it basically shares the same card effect as the grade 2 Shiny Star Coral. More and more soul setup, you should have a good amount of soul for all the different cards you use with Fresh Star Coral, and then just having the different Aurora Star Coral ride chain to rely on for more riding, Imaginary Gift Force, and setup is all together what you need for the deck and its soul setup. So for Fresh Star Coral, it makes it the ideal ride for your grade 1 to go into also. And then for more of the backup grade 1 support, I run 4 Electro Techno Theco. On rearguard, counterblast 1, put this unit to your soul, and 1 of your units with Coral in its card name gets plus 15 until end of turn. So with the additional critical you get with Aurora Star Coral, this card's pressure for the attack, and then the guard restrictions you can have with Aurora Star, it says any unit with Coral, so it doesn't even have to be a rearguard, it can be the Vanguard as well. For the plus 15, and then just the overall power you can get with Coral herself, means it makes for quite a scary attack on your opponent. Either they have the Sentinel, or they have to guard with a good amount of grade 0s when they have time to guard for that attack. And Techno Theco definitely does help just by putting into the soul to build up the soul as well for just an easy counterblast in the deck. And also I run the 4 Mini Sparkle Parum with this one on rear. If you Soul Blast a total of 2 or more this turn, this unit gets plus 10,000. So you easily Soul Blast each and every turn for a bunch of different effects. So if you set up Parum on the back rear guard circle, you have the 10k booster right then and there that you can go for just for the Soul Blast too. And like I said, either Coral, Caro, a lot of these cards will rely on that. It's not a Coral specific card, this one, but still I would say it was definitely made for the deck to rely on that good rearguard power. If you don't use it for a booster, just getting the plus 10 makes it an 18k attack monster that can attack on its own as well. And just one more grade 1. I run the one prominent personality Terminator just for some of the ride consistency, so you always have a good ride target to go for. And you have plenty of soul to set up with this deck as well. So removing a card from your soul just so you have the G-Assist costs covered definitely does help as well, with just one card from your hand to rely on for that grade 4 spot. You can put an additional one of this in the deck if you didn't want to run the Crystal Popstar Eve and go for 2 of this for the count. But really, 1 is all you need if you end up relying on this card for that draw and the G-Assist. And that is it for the grade 1s. For the grade 0, your starter is the Angelic Star Coral, just so you have the ride target to go for, with having the soul when you ride your Fresh Star Coral on top of this card. And for the trigger lineup, you really do invest a lot with soul, but none of the coral cards really provide draw power, so that's why I decided to stick with 8 critical, so 4 Docking Shooter Peltia, and 4 Lover Hope Rena for the 8 critical. And I decided to not go for the 12 crit, but stick to the draw trigger Sentinel to keep the grade 1 lineup open to have good boost effects. And like I said, you just need this draw trigger because it can definitely come in handy at times when your hand is a little short. It doesn't have the draw power consistency like Riviere, so you definitely need that resource. And for Handmade Lover Elena to finish off the trigger lineup for the heal spot also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. That's the end for the Crystal Melody decks. I thought about working on Melody. If a lot of you requested, I'll definitely look into it. It's just a more expensive deck to rely on, but still a fun one with all the From Colorful Pastoral cards we received also. So if enough of you do want to see a deck profile for that, I'll definitely look into it. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.